Marriage is a sacred act that God has instituted for men and women, not...
Did you know the word marriage doesn't ever appear in the Bible?
No, it doesn't.
Well, neither does Trinity. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
But you have to just read the fine print and read
the
between
fine
the lines.
print.
Yeah, read between the lines. It's all there.
So who do we, because obviously we all read that fine print differently.
Yes, we do.
Who then decides what the fine print says?
That's a very good question. I couldn't tell you who could answer that question because I wouldn't know who could answer that. You probably would have to ask somebody in the legislative department to see if they would have the answer.
Let's ask a Democrat, huh? Do you think our Constitution is based on a separation of church and state?
Who said that?
I think it was Thomas Jefferson.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
Right.
Our country was founded on Christian values. The majority of people that were founding fathers were Christians.
And yet they went out of their way to not to explicitly say that that no church should dictate public
What
policy.
does that have to do with church?
This isn't a
It's
church issue.
It's a biblical.
How are you separating church and religion here?
Well, I don't understand what you mean.
Well, you're saying it's not a church issue, it's a biblical issue. I think you're talking one and the same, is that it's the church's Bible, right? I mean, it's the Bible of the Christian church.
No, this is what the country was founded on. This is what our forefathers.
If you knew that homosexuality wasn't a choice, that they are homosexuals or not,
Right.
if you knew that it wasn't a choice, they didn't have anything to say about this, would that change your view on this?
No. No, it wouldn't, and I know I could catch a lot of heat for this. Because I could catch a lot of heat for this, and I don't mean for it to be inflammatory, but if I want to, speak what I believe to be truth, homosexual tendencies are disordered. The reason, not that it is a mental disorder or something like that. I want to be very clear that it's not that, but it is.
What kind of disorder is it?
It's disordered.
If we excuse a homosexual and say that they're born that way, then what do we do with the pedophile? Well, they're born like that too.
That's actually not true. It's a different thing, So
No, it isn't. It's
why
the same.
No, it isn't, because there are many gay people who, in fact, the vast majority of gay people just want to have a relationship with a consenting adult. It's not about having an advantageous relationship with a child who isn't in a position to enact their own will. That's very different.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
This vote right here coming up in November, isn't this casting judgment on gay people?
No.
And they're
on the lifestyle, not against gays.
No,
so just how they want to live, just everything about that, who they are and who they're about, but not casting judgment on them as people.
Not as them as people, no.
Do you think it's possible for gay couples or lesbian couples to raise healthy children?
They could. However, there have been some problems with doing that. We found that many children that have been raised that way have had psychological problems and other emotional problems.
So straight couples don't raise kids with psychological problems.
No, that's not true either. Some of those can still have children with some psychological problems. It depends on how the parents get along with each other and how they get along with their children too. You have to look at the whole perspective on it.
Right. So if the gay parents get along together and have a healthy relationship, then that's okay. If the kids are healthy and happy and everybody's healthy and happy, that's okay then, right?
I would say it's probably okay for them to do that, but then they do have to remember that there are children, and I've read about this online already, that one person, he ended up becoming bisexual because he was raised by lesbian parents. And this has hurted himself for the whole life.
That happened to one person?
It happened to more than one, but I read about one of them in particular online already.
Wow. Do you think that there have been people who are straight kids raised by gay or lesbian parents? Are there straight kids raised by gay or lesbian parents?
I've heard of some kids that were straight that didn't have any problems with that, so that is possible, yes.
Does divorce take away from the purity of marriage?
It is.
It's a taintment.
does, yep.
Yeah.
So should we legislate against divorce? Should we also have a constitutional amendment that people can't divorce?
No, it's not. That's not the point.
What you choose to do behind your closed doors, whether it's right or wrong, is your freedom of choice, right? That's your freedom of choice.
Right, but there are rights.
But that doesn't mean that we have to have an agenda that goes out and says, this is what, everybody should, we should accept and embrace homosexuality. We don't need to do that.
Right.
God
I guess,
ordained-
unless you're
God
gay,
created
I
man and
guess.
woman.
Let's say anybody could, that men could marry men, two consenting adults, women could marry women. How does it affect you as a straight man if they can marry?
It doesn't affect me.
Okay, so, the whole defensive marriage thing. So why does it bother you that if they can marry?
Because I don't like definitions being changed at will for political reasons.
Which is in greater violation of the institution of marriage? A divorce among straight couples or two gay people who are in a loving relationship and want to stay together?
They're both a violation of what God's will is.
If both are, then why don't we have a constitutional amendment against unmarried couples being together, or having a constitutional amendment against divorce? Why don't we do that?
Well, the unmarried couples do live together.
Right, but why don't we have a constitutional amendment that bans that?
Well, we're not.
Trying to.
Why would we do that? Well, no, wait a minute. We don't even have a constitutional amendment banning homosexual couples to live together.
Definition
I don't
of
want to change the definition.
well, just like the definition used to be where blacks counted for 3/5 of the vote.
I do understand that was true.
And do you think then back in if it were in the Civil War era or post-Civil War, would you have the same feeling that this is the way the laws have always been, we don't need to change them?
I did not live in that time period. I cannot speak as if I did.
I enjoy growing things in the garden, respecting life.
Gardening?
Gardening,
That is so
yes.
gay.
There's never been a culture that has looked at a homosexual or lesbian relationship as marriage. I mean,
Well, there are European cultures, actually. There are European cultures that do recognize it, and Canada.
maybe now, but I'm talking about through the history of humanity. There's never been a culture.
You can't marry your female cousin right now, right?
Not in this state, but in 11 states you can.
Well, yeah,
And
but those
because
are
there's no biological.
in 11
problems
states.
with first
What
cousins.
states can you marry your
on,
cousin?
I don't recall specifically what they are. I know it's 11 states. I believe Montana is one of them. Alabama, Arkansas. Don't quote me
So
on this,
basically,
'cause I'm
all the
not certain.
Republican states in the deep red South, probably, right?
I feel like
ad hominems,
yes.
Gay children can come out of straight relationships. It is possible. However, the church, they do have two programs to help families that have homosexual relatives, and we also have a program for children that are homosexual. We have one of them that's called Encouraged, and the other one is called Courage.
Those work a lot better than the programs called Discourage. Why not ban all couples who are not going to have kids? If you're going to discriminate from one kind of couple who can't have children versus another kind who either don't want children or can't have children, why discriminate between those?
Again, we're
Well,
talking
I wouldn't necessarily use the word discriminate because, yes, if you want to get technical, that would be the right way to, because you discriminate between those who have red hair and those who have blonde hair.
You believe that marriage itself is discriminatory, right? So marriage itself is only meant for one class of people, one group of people, and not meant for another group.
Yes, I do.
So if you were gay, that would be pretty sad that you couldn't marry wouldn't that be pretty sad?
If I want to go down to the Midway, I'm going to go down that way and then take a right. I'm making a discriminatory decision by choosing to get to where I need to go. I'm going in that direction. So I'm choosing not to take a left there. I'm
Right.
discriminating against right and left turns.
Right, but you're not telling somebody else they can't turn left or right.
Yeah, but I need to get to.
So let's say in the 1920s, 1930s, would you think that women should not be allowed to hold jobs and vote?
Well, if you go back far enough in history, only land-owning males were allowed to vote, and I actually think that landowners would be a better way to allow for voting, because then they have a reason to, they have a share in our country. They own this piece of land.
People who rent apartments shouldn't be allowed to
I rent
vote.
an apartment.
Yeah. So would you?
If that was the rule, I would not. I intend to own land in the future.
The issue to me with the whole homosexuality thing is it's an agenda that they're pushing to try to get some acknowledgement of something that's not correct.
What do you think What do you think the agenda is?
I don't know exactly what it is. It's something that it's
not normal and it's not natural.
It's not normal. It's not natural. It's not right. So why do we have to exploit it?
What if your kid becomes gay? What if your kid's gay?
To be perfectly honest, that would be a challenge for me, but I would love my child. Why? Because that was my child.
And what if your child someday grew up and fell in love with? If you had a son, fell in love with another man, how would you treat that other person?
Law dictates that we must seek the highest end and the highest good for the beloved.
I would love them, okay? Um,
And if they wanted to get married, would you support it?
no, I wouldn't.
Because that we
You wouldn't go to your son's wedding?
because
It
we
would.
would
Well,
believe
it
that
wouldn't
it's
be
not for the
one.
highest
I
end.
don't believe that would actually be a wedding.
Gay advocates are not talking at all about imposing making churches marry anybody. Like if a church doesn't want to marry a gay couple, they don't have to marry a gay couple. But allow the churches and temples and mosques that do want to marry them, allow that to happen.
Yes, if they want to do that, fine, but they should not force it on the religions that don't believe it.
We
is what
agree, we all agree on that. We found a point of agreement. So
yes, that would be good.
Great. So should we then maybe if gays and lesbians were allowed to marry and have all the rights and benefits of marriage if they want it, but just not happen in a church that doesn't, don't force a church to marry them, would that be okay?
I would say that they could have their union, but the word married.
Oh, we were almost there. We're
Yeah, we're
almost there.
Yeah, married is definitely between a man and a woman according to the dictionary right now.
So we've just spent an entire afternoon in front of the joyless shack of hate at the Minnesota State Fair, and we've learned so much about the Minnesota for Marriage movement. Now, we came in thinking it was all about hating gay people. It's not. It's just about hating everything about gay people. See the difference? So this is Matt Peiken for Faith Forward Minnesota and The Discriminate here from the Minnesota State Fair.